Which of the signings do you really like? Which seem to fit the scheme as we know what Kevin Stefanski and Joe Woods want to do?
Well, I mean, offensively, they're kind of fitting that puzzle together, right? They've got the wide receivers that fit the scheme already, guys who can win on double moves. They have a quarterback who can get out and move and has plus athleticism, can throw on the run, can make those deep shot throws downfield, and they have the running back stable to be able to handle the wide zone scheme too. Obviously, Nick Chubb can thrive in this thing. And then you're just looking at kind of fitting in some other pieces. They needed to add tight end depth. I think they hit a home run with Austin Hooper. I think he's going to be a great inline hand in the ground tight end who can get down the middle of the field, win routes, block well enough in zone schemes, and really be a solid catching tight end. They need a guy they can trust to catch the football at tight end, and he's one of the best catching the football tight ends at this, at the position, and then can get up the field, make plays up the seams, can go as a wide catch radius, top 4 in the last 2 years of catches in contested situations. Great fit. Jack Conklin, great fit. Another guy who really fits wide zone blocking, the second best wide zone blocking grade according to Pro Football Focus in the last 2 years. He'll be effective. Good enough pass blocker. Really nice, again, in play action passing. Does a great job mirroring his man, staying in front of him with live feet. Has some things in true pass sets he could clean up. It's a little lungy at times, and his punch is mistimed, and that leads to some off-balance issues. But for the most part, he'll be fine. I've told a lot of people this has some Mitchell Schwartz when he went to Kansas City. He was obviously very good in Cleveland, then goes to Kansas City and becomes that all-pro. I think Conklin has that same ability. He's coming off an ACL tear late 2017. 2018 kind of comes back early, week 4, labors through a year where he ends the year with a knee issue. Doesn't have to have another surgery, but you could just tell there's something off 2018, and then has Tennessee declines that 5th-year option. He comes back 2019. And has a good year and propels himself into free agency. And I think he's going to be a really good get for Cleveland over the next 3 years. So they just have to fill that left tackle role. And I think they will eventually do that in the draft. We'll talk about that later. But Case Keenum, solid backup. I probably wouldn't have spent that much money on a backup if Baker's the guy that you really trust and you don't really need all that. But I also get the point. They want somebody that they can trust if injuries happen, or if an emergency happens and Baker doesn't play as well as they're hoping. They got to have a plan there. And Case's familiarity with Stefanski from operating under him obviously is something that works in his favor. So they went that route, which Case can be a help. I mean, you listen to his interviews, he certainly sounds like he's going to help Baker immensely. And then Andy Janovich, who's, in my opinion, every bit as good as some of the top tier names, Kyle Juszczyk, San Francisco, and C.J. Ham, Minnesota, some of those well-known fullbacks. I think he's every bit as good, very athletic. Very fundamentally sound blocker with patience, can pull block, can get up in the second level from the backfield and block. Also a sneaky good athlete, getting out, catching the football too. I think Browns fans will like him, what he gives them on that 20 to 25 snaps a game. So that side's great. Defensively, they added a bunch of one-year guys that need to prove some things, guys that should be hungry. I think that's what they were looking for, hungry players on the defensive side of the ball, knowing that I think you can project long-term success a little bit better on your offensive side with bigger contracts. There's more stability in the production on that side. Defense has a lot more variables that hit certain positions, and things can be up and down year to year, so they invested less on the defensive side. But also with the smart plan in mind, which is if some of these guys, Andrew Billings or Carl Joseph or Kevin Johnson, who have clear amount, talent that can truly take off, if those guys do hit gold, you're looking at an opportunity to sign them long term in the middle to late part of the year before anybody else has a crack at them. And then you're also looking at the ability, if those guys have great years, walk away to bigger contracts, to get comp picks back in the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds, which is great for building a roster over the long haul, is adding those extra picks. So they added guys who I think are hungry to take short-term deals to try to cash in later, but are also talented and seem like team-driven guys who say all the right things. Anderson Dejo will be a nice defensive end in the secondary as well. And I'm excited about the direction. I like that they're looking at guys who have trended positively in grading over the past few years and are really trending upward. And I'm a believer in what they're doing right now. They've sold me.